and welcome to the About Her show. This is a show where we get women achievers who we call women trailblazers to share the story of their lives with us, to tell us about the challenges they have faced, the ups and downs, successes, failures, everything. And not only is this a platform for them to talk about their work, but it is also a means by which they inspire women who are listening. Because you see, there are so many women out there who have dreams, ambitions, aspirations, but for one reason or the other, they are not able to achieve them. So we want them to get inspired and motivated and, just get out of whatever is holding them back to realize their potential. And eventually, we want to build a community of women who are there to support, empower, mentor, and be there for each other. So, a very, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Thank you. It's a real privilege to be here today, talking to you about my journey as a writer and, of course, to talk about the status of women, really, in today's contemporary society.
Yeah. So fine. So just as an icebreaker, so if you could tell us a little bit about your journey, your childhood, your life experiences, and you think of any of those experiences from your early life, they influenced you to become the person that you are today.
Right. So I've had quite a sort of global journey in a way. I was born in India. In fact, I was born in the small, sleepy town of Motihari in Bihar because my father was in the IS and Bihar was happened to be his cadre. So from there, of course, from Motihari, we then moved on to Delhi, and then my father was posted with the United Nations to Rome, to Italy. So all my formative years were spent in Rome. I did my schooling there. And of course, Rome in the 70s and 80s was a much, sleepy, slow pace of life. And in some ways, very similar to India in the sense that there's a big emphasis on food, on family, and that certain warmth in relationships, which we could relate to. So it didn't feel such an alien transition. And so I did my schooling in Rome. I went to a British school, international school, and after that I came to London. I did my undergraduate and my postgraduate degrees at the London School of Economics. And because I was, of course, I always loved writing, but, as typical parents, they said, literature won't really get you a good job. So anyway, so I studied economics and development economics and economic history. And then I went back to Rome, and there I was working with the UN, with the World Food Programme. And then with FAO, and because and my job consisted of really a lot of travel. I spent some time in Ghana, then in northern India, just working as a researcher and writing reports, etc., for the UN. And then, of course, then my life, like all of us, it took an unexpected turn. I met my husband. And and he was living in Paris at that time. So that there was again another transition, which actually, to be honest, wasn't such a major transition from Rome to Paris. So once I was in Paris, I was working with the OECD. I worked there for a few years, and my husband has a family business which is based here in Britain, in the Northwest, in Manchester. And then when I was expecting my first child, we just thought, okay, maybe we'll just come back to Manchester, and just in terms of comfort and stability, and just maybe have our first baby here and then go back to Paris. So, but that never happened, And this particular baby is nearly 30 now, so 30 years on, we're still here. But then, so that was really, so how the turns and twists of destiny and fate, I thought I was just coming literally for 9 months and I would go back. But life here is, I don't know if you've been to Manchester. It's a nice city in the northwest of England, about 2 hours from London by train.
I lived in London. My first 6 years of my life was spent in London because my father was in civil services. But yeah, I've not been to Manchester.
Yeah. So it's nice. It's a comfortable community, and there's a lot of greenery, the Lake District, and it's just at our doorstep. And of course, so while I was in Manchester, I thought, let me return back to my first love, to literature.
Okay.
And I've always loved writing. And even at school, I was always writing poetry. So then I sort of enrolled at the University of Manchester. I did my master's in creative writing. And I did my PhD as well in
Oh, wow.
critical thought and creative writing. And this was while having, I had two small children by then, but somehow I sort of juggled everything and managed to finish my PhD in
Okay.
5 years. And so really since then, my life has really been, my working life has been a combination of teaching at the university, mentoring other PhD students, and of course, writing.
Yeah.
And I've written, two novels, a short story collection, and a poetry collection, and not numerous, other sort of
Okay.
pieces. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So could you tell
Thank
us
you.
a little bit about your books, maybe your latest book or something?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my latest book is called Still Lives. I think you can see the
Yeah.
cover. Yeah, it came out, I think about 2 years back, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just speaking about it at the Jaipur Literature Festival in
Okay.
earlier this year,
Yeah.
and that was wonderful. And the book really is about the Indian immigrant experience in Manchester. It's set in, but
See.
it's a contemporary story, and it sort of subverts the usual immigrant story. So, the protagonists in this book aren't needy or wanting, or, they're confident. And
Mm-hmm.
what they are searching for in life is not so much as assimilation as a more sort of an emotional
Okay.
kind of understanding of who they are. So it's about a family. It's a multicultural family saga.
Okay. Nice.
And this particular book was awarded the Reader's Choice Award here in Britain last year.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
really pleased with
Congratulations.
it. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Great. All
Yeah.
right. So tell me, so of course you've had a pretty interesting journey spread over different cities, different stages of lives. And of course you've, I mean, like in terms of your academics and then getting to writing and all of that. So I'm sure you faced challenges along the way. So if you could elaborate on some of them, and if you feel that some of those were because of your gender.
Yeah, I think I would say yes. I think the biggest challenge, of course, was reconciling my role as a mother and a wife and in a big family. My husband has a big family. And with my creative journey as an individual, as a writer who needed to focus on my own work.
Yeah.
And writing, as you know, it's a very draining process. It requires a lot of time,
Yes.
not just intellectually, but practically. You have to shut yourself away and dive into your sort of, inside your head, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just navigating that was very difficult. And I think for women, especially if they're married women, and with younger children, I think it can be quite a, juggling act
Of course.
and
Definitely.
quite tiring,
Hmm.
So I would say that is a big challenge. I know people say the received wisdom is that women can have it all, but women can have it all at a price.
Yes.
Maybe it's
Yes. Of course.
at a price, and and
Yeah.
something have to go.
Okay. So
Yeah.
even the transition from, say, I mean, the various kinds of jobs that you were doing, I mean, where you were working, and so you've been, I mean, as you said, then you from there you shifted to, doing your master's and then your PhD. So even that, I think, you have to kind of keep changing your mental makeup also has to be like that,
Oh,
where you have to be flexible enough to be able to,
yeah.
try on different things.
Absolutely, yeah. And I did my master's and PhD as a mature student, relatively.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
I had two small children at home, and I would leave them in the nursery and then rush to the university. And then when the classes were over, the other students would be going off to the pub or to, or, or partying, and I'd say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have to leave now." So
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
almost like there were two Reshmas, there were two parallel lives going
Yes,
on.
yes, yeah.
And at some time, at points, you just, it was just sheer exhaustion, I think,
I
trying
can
to
imagine. Totally,
fulfill.
totally. And with
Yeah,
young
yeah,
children.
which I'm sure you can understand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
So tell me, if you were to look back on your life, do you think there was anyone in particular who was like a mentor to you or someone who you consider to be a role model?
I think in a way, in terms of particular role model, there have been several people, we as individuals are like a mosaic, we are built up of several different influences that enrich us in our journey, and they come at a particular point in life. And then once they fulfill their role, in a way, then they gracefully step away and someone else comes in.
Yeah.
So, but if I were to sort of pinpoint one person, I think it would have to be my late father. I
Yeah.
think he really believed in me. He really believed in us. We are three sisters, and you know how it is in a typical Indian household. There was never this compulsion, oh, you must just quickly get married and settle and have kids. I'm talking about my own
Yeah.
generation,
Yeah. Yeah.
when we were in our 50s, 40s, 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they always, my father and also my mother, they always said that, look, education comes first, and then, just be sure that to fulfill your role, don't just be known as somebody's wife or mother or
Yeah.
daughter. Be someone
So,
in your own right. Yeah.
so essential
So,
to have your own
yeah.
identity. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, my husband, it takes, they say it takes a village to raise a
Of
child, but
course.
I
Yeah.
think, you need a very supportive husband, and the family, the wider family has to be there to
You do.
back you up as well.
Absolutely. So tell me, you've been, of course, in the space of writing and publishing your books for a long time now. So if
Yeah.
you were to share 3 tips, which you think are the most important tips for someone who wants to
Mhm.
get into this space, what would they be?
Yeah. I would say that, well, it's a very tough industry, as you know, Sangeeta, there's so many, the publishing world is a jungle.
Yes.
There's so many books coming out, and to break into publishing itself, to get your book published, you have to go through lots of loops, you have to
Yeah.
jump through lots of loops. So one thing you need is patience, and
Yeah.
perseverance,
Mm-hmm.
you have to, there are so many gatekeepers in the industry. There's so many people who say, no, you can't do this, or, or you don't fulfill. A lot of my books, I think I've had difficulty because they're not the usual sort of books that people expect me to write. So
Mm-hmm.
there's, especially in the West, there's this sort of expectation that if you're an Asian diaspora, part of the Asian diaspora, you'll write about certain themes,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
actually in a way fulfill their stereotypes about what India is like, or what the South Asia is. But the minute you deviate from that, they can't sort of place you in a
Mm-hmm.
in a sort of a pigeonhole. So I would say resilience, definitely. And the second is self-belief. You have to believe in yourself as a writer. I mean, I suppose it goes for any profession where you
Yes.
need, a lot of self-confidence. But
Correct.
this self-confidence has to be, you don't have to shout about it, but it has this sort of the inner sense of self-belief.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, you have to follow that voice. You have to be almost like an arrow, and you have to know where you want to reach. And
Correct.
then in a way, just be deaf to anything else behind, around you.
Yes.
Easier said than done, of course.
But if you know it,
Yeah.
then I guess you kind of
Yeah, exactly.
get
Yeah.
there. So patience, resilience, and
Yeah,
self-belief,
there's
you're saying.
self-belief. And for writing, I would say also read a lot, keep
Right.
reading. I think
Yeah,
good readers make good writers.
I agree.
So
I completely agree.
yeah, so I can see all the books behind you, so it's so obvious that
You have to.
you're a voracious reader. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So, of course, like any other individual, and of course, most women, we have a personal life and we have a professional life.
yeah.
But having said that, society till date has greater expectations out of women than men because they do feel that
Sure.
there are certain things which only women can do, certain roles for that matter.
Mm.
So, how do you balance the different parts, the 2 different parts of your life, the
Yeah,
personal and the professional?
yeah, yeah. It is difficult because you have to choose your battles, really. In a way, you have to choose your battles wisely.
Of course.
And I don't belong to this sort of strident feminist, man hater camp at all, because I think men can be our allies as well.
Of course, as
They're
they should
not,
be.
they're not on the other side of the fence. It's not
Absolutely.
a tug of war. So I think if you identify your goals and in a way you get that across to the people who are sharing your life,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they feel invested in it.
Yeah, yeah.
And somehow, and I think women are very good at we are team players, we are team
Yes.
players. I think
Yeah.
that's the great thing about women in any field and in any sort of environment. We are gifted with a sense of empathy, with compassion.
Yeah.
And I think all these qualities rise to the surface so that there's minimal confrontation in a way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But of course, there are sacrifices that, and sometimes you have to, for the wider good, in a way, you have to step back sometimes and say that, okay, I'll come to this particular whatever project another time.
Another time. So I think you have to, keep
Yeah.
the larger picture in view.
Yes, yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, you have to, and especially more for women. I hate to say that for men. I think men can go away and fulfill their, swadharma or whatever that does,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and that's it, they know that there's somebody else, sort of shadowing them who'll pick up the pieces. But
Yeah,
in a way, we have to be, we have to play both roles.
yeah.
We have to be our own wives as well, in a way,
Yeah.
what.
So yes, it is a bit
Yeah,
of a, like a constant struggle, to
yeah,
juggle because there are so many roles. But then I guess,
yeah.
like you said, I mean, you don't have to do everything every day or something like that. You
No, no,
know
no,
what you
no.
have to do. If
Yeah,
certain things fall by the side, it's okay. You can pick them up
yeah,
later. So,
sure, sure.
a pretty, I mean, large-hearted perspective in that sense. I think women need.
Yes, and don't erase yourself, don't,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
just,
definitely.
I think a lot of young women, at least I'm speaking for myself, in my 20s, when you just got married, you want to please everyone, you want to fit in. And in
Yeah.
a way, you rub yourself away, but I think that's wrong. I
Yes.
think
Yes.
you can
Yes.
put across your own identity, but in a pleasant, non-confrontational way.
Yes, yes. There are, I mean, pleasant ways of doing some,
Of course.
you don't have to
Yeah, yeah,
always confront. Okay.
that's right.
So, of
Mhm.
course, life is full of challenges, and there are setbacks and ups and downs that we have to constantly face. So, in the face of a setback or something which is very, very challenging, how do you keep
Yeah.
yourself motivated and how do you stay the course?
Yeah. Yeah, as you said, challenges are there. I think I'm quite a spiritual person in a way. I feel that, there's somebody watching over me.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have this feeling that maybe, things won't. And also I feel that life is made up of light and shade. I think if you take the big picture, you I don't know whether it comes from, experience or whatever. I tend not to take things too seriously.
Hmm.
If there's a setback, you always feel that, oh gosh, this is the end of the world. But there's another, there's something else that'll come around the corner which might mitigate.
Hmm. 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 That's
So there's always, there are always seasons in one's life. There's
correct,
summer.
correct. And
Yeah,
I love this,
yeah,
light and shade. That's true. You
yeah,
have to believe,
yeah.
that, I mean, like,
Yeah, you have to
that's a
believe.
balanced
Yeah,
and very positive mindset, because you
yeah,
are
yeah,
like
of
looking at the
course.
brighter side. And so, not
Sure.
very happy when things go your way and not very sad when they don't.
No.
That sense of
Yeah.
balance has to be there.
Yeah, of course. And also, I think for people from the diaspora, Indian diasporas, we have our own particular set of challenges
Of
because
course.
you're always, this sense of home is always,
Yeah.
you're always trying to define that, I have, my siblings and my mother, we all scattered in different continents across different time zones. So
Mm-hmm.
in a way to maintain those ties becomes a much more of a challenge, to make them meaningful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's something, as a writer, I'm really interested in that.
Mm-hmm. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
Another thing, so young girls, the generation of today, Gen
Yeah.
Z, they have, I think, a very, very challenging life. And, considering the multiple choices they have in terms of everything, whether it is, life choices, career, whatever it is, there are so many things because a lot of information is available. Yet, when we look at girls, there are certain things which we would consider to be non-negotiables, which they have to keep in mind no matter what. So, if you were
Sure.
to give some advice to the young girls of today, who
Hmm.
are on the threshold of their personal or professional lives, what would that be? What would you like to tell them?
Yeah. Well, I have a daughter who's in her early 20s, so I can very much, I can relate to that. And yeah, I think that I feel sorry for young women today. I
Mm-hmm.
feel okay, they might on surface appear very emancipated, compared
Yeah,
to the previous generations.
yeah,
They might have freedom of movement and less accountability and less expectation in the sense of, getting married by a certain age or
yeah, yeah.
and more professional freedom. But then I feel that, they have so many different, voices competing for them. The social media is such a big influence in their life.
Mm,
And social media can create havoc. Mental illness is a big problem now
yeah,
among the young. And
yeah.
this whole sort of emphasis on physical perfection, or
Mm,
this idealized life, what they see on Instagram, whatever. It's almost like this virtual life that's they're like a red, like a red flag. It's
mm-hmm.
like waving at them, so they're like bulls, running towards this. But it's an illusion.
Yeah,
And this whole thing about what is reality and what's illusion, and how not everything needs to be shared or
yeah,
liked. That sense of self and that feeling that you are enough as you are. I think that's probably the biggest sort of take home thing. I would say that
yeah.
don't be so in such a desperate hurry to be part of the herd.
Because what you
Yeah.
see is like, I think times out of 10, not reality. It's
Yeah,
just
it's not.
that particular moment for Instagram or for social media. It has no
Yeah.
bearing, it's got no bearing on the real life. So I think
No, no,
that
no.
distinction is very, very critical. They need
Mm.
to keep that in mind, that not
Sure.
everything that you see out there is reality.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
then, of course, that can create all kinds of issues. So you have to kind of
Yeah.
stay clear.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to. And hopefully, maybe, things come full circle. Maybe there might be a backlash against this whole sort of, and also material, all these obsession with brands and labels. And
Yeah,
if you're not carrying a particular handbag or wearing some,
yeah,
particular designer, I think that can lead to very sort of superficial
yeah.
definition of life. Yeah.
So, where would you place independence for a woman in the scheme of things? And here I'm talking of both financial and emotional independence. Where would you rate that?
I would rate financial independence really, really high. I would rate it actually at a higher level than emotional independence also.
Yeah. Hmm.
Maybe it's controversial, but I think, years back, Virginia Woolf put this,
Yeah.
wrote this essay, A Room of One's Own,
Yeah.
as
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
familiar. So
Yes.
I think a woman with a financial independence can make so many choices which are not shaped by her vulnerability or her weakness.
Yes.
She then, she is the driver in her own car. She's in the driving seat.
True.
And of course, emotional independence again is equally important, but in the sense that she doesn't need to feel that a relationship completes her or fulfills her. So
Yeah.
the most enduring relationship a woman will have is with herself,
Yeah.
and she
Yes.
needs to be her own best friend.
Yes.
And then later on, you have this whole sort of, solid network of, friends, family, and
Yes.
other relationships which sustain you. But your biggest friend has to be, the person you look at in the mirror every
Yes,
morning. Yeah.
absolutely. You have to take
Yeah.
care of that person. I mean, not be,
Yes.
of course, it's not
Yeah.
being, about being selfish or self-centered, but you've
No,
got
no,
to take
no.
care of yourself. Only then
Yeah.
will you be like, if you're happy, you can spread that happiness. And if you're not,
Sure.
you can spread that.
Yeah.
So it's important for you to be happy, to look after yourself
Happy.
so that you can spread it all around you. Yeah.
That's right. Because especially, women, we are sort of, being caregivers is in our DNA in a way.
Yeah, yeah,
We just
yeah.
want to nurture everyone. And then, we sort of come at the end. We are
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
last in the queue. But I
Correct.
think that needs to change.
Yes, I agree.
Really, yeah, yeah,
So, taking a cue from that, so of
yeah.
course, we've come a long way when we look at where women were and where they are today in terms of
Sure.
choices, independence, whatever you say, we have it, quite a bit of it.
Sure.
Despite that, there are numerous challenges that we still have to face. So, if you were to look
Hmm.
around you, what
Yeah.
do you think are some of the challenges which women still have to face?
I would say it's a very youth obsessed culture, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
So I think for women, especially in their middle age,
Yeah,
there's this big hurdle of, that of turning invisible, or not being taken seriously, or being sort of slightly being sort of nudged into the background.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's a big battle because it's not just the media, advertising, the world around you,
Mhm.
everybody worships at the altar of youth.
Yeah, yeah,
And and women themselves are sometimes their own biggest enemies because they'll spend thousands and thousands on these sort of age-defying creams, or they'll go under the scalpel, engage in Botox. Not that there's anything wrong, but this thing about trying to stop the tide of time.
yeah, yeah. It's more than before.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Definitely. I think that's and again, I think mental
Mm-hmm.
issues are very important. There's this pressure on women again to be successful professionally on the domestic front, on so again, women in a way have to fight lots of battles on lots of different fronts. Especially our sort of generation, we have aging parents and we still have young children. So you're sort of in the middle trying to make sure that everything works out for everybody.
Yeah.
And sometimes, the danger that you forget yourself in the process.
Mm. So, some
Mm.
of these things have kind of been there and they're still there. And it's
They're
not,
still there, yes.
yeah,
Yeah, these are age-old issues. And of course, we are fortunate in terms of our economic security, but I imagine they're much worse for people who are not,
yeah,
as socioeconomically blessed as us. I think the challenges are much more
yeah.
vivid. Yeah.
So tell me when these kind of challenges, they were there, they're still there.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
how do you think platforms like these, the one, for instance, on which
Yeah.
we are currently, how do you
Mm.
think these help or contribute women to face these challenges? I mean, if at
Yeah.
all they do help. What
Sure.
are your views
Yeah,
on
I
that?
think it's vital. I think it's vital that, platforms such as yourselves exist because, representation matters, The minute you see somebody that you can identify with or who looks or sounds similar, you think, wow, this person has been there, that done it, they've gone through that same struggle or journey. So
Hmm.
there's strength in numbers, and you can build this sort of sense of solidarity.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, in a way, this is what prompted me about 10 years back. I co-founded a women's writers collective here in Britain. It's
Great.
called The Whole Kahani. And
Oh,
it's really unique. It's made up of 10 women writers from the Indian subcontinent.
okay.
And we realize how difficult publishing is, how writing is a very solitary business. So we workshop each other's stories, we meet, and we, give, share publishing opportunities with each other. And we produce 3 anthologies of short stories together.
Oh, nice.
So it's
Okay,
more
okay.
about collaboration. Yeah. So I think I think women thrive in a collaborative environment. And
Yes.
it's not a case of pulling up the ladder, after you. It's more that,
Yes. It's
extending a hand down
helping
and
more
saying, come
people,
on.
yes, absolutely go
Yeah.
up the
Yeah.
ladder. So yes, I
Yeah.
agree. So that is the reason
Yeah.
why I also started doing this, because I felt that
Yeah.
it, at times you're going through situations and you may probably feel that you're the only one. But if you can, if you hear someone else relate the same thing, the same story, that
Yeah.
even if they cannot offer you a solution, just the
Yeah.
fact somebody else has been through what you're going through, I think
Yeah.
that gives you a
Exactly.
lot of solace
Yeah.
and comfort, that I think
Yeah. It does. Definitely.
invaluable.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
You're looking for role models
Yeah,
for all
yeah.
your life, all one's life, one is looking. Yeah. Yeah.
So again, coming back to this, that women continue to face challenges which were there, like you
Yeah.
said, age old and all of that. And
Mm.
I think mental health is one of
Yeah.
the issues that
Sure.
uh, was never addressed earlier. I don't even think people, and
No,
that's not only about men and women, it was, I think, for everyone. Nobody
of
actually
course.
spoke about
Yeah.
mental health. But even now, when it is like kind of, I spoke to someone the other day, so they said mental health is trending nowadays. Everybody's talking about
Mhm.
it. But do you think women's mental health is getting as much priority as anyone else's?
Uh, It depends, actually. Like in Britain, at least, because I live here, I can speak of it. Menopause has become a major issue now,
Yeah.
and suddenly, there's this realization that actually, it's not just a natural phase, that women actually might do suffer from it and they
Mm.
need help, and it needs to be recognized as a condition. I
Okay.
mean, it's not an illness, I mean,
Yeah,
I
but
don't agree. It's a
it's
natural
changed.
transition, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hormones changing. But there's an acknowledgement that this can prove to, this can hold back women in the professional
Hmm.
field. So I'm not sure whether in India also, whether
Oh,
menopause
it
has
is
entered
getting
the
there.
main.
People are talking
Yeah,
about it, accepting it
yeah,
is there, and
yeah.
accepting the changes which come with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the changes, yeah.
Hmm.
Rather than laughing, it was sort of ridicule, oh, she's
Yeah.
having one of those hot flushes, or, it had become, in the past, the whole narrative around menopause was though, oh, she's having one of her off days, or, there was slight
Yeah.
ridicule.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's being taken more seriously. And also, yeah, you're right. I mean, the other issue would be loneliness. I think that's quite an important,
Hmm.
especially for young women, maybe who are living alone in cities, who have got, far away from their family or their support network, and they're, moving to big urban metropolis like Bombay or Delhi, and suddenly,
Hmm. Hmm.
they go back home to, one room flat or whatever. And then, what do they do with, so that's probably, loneliness in urban areas and loneliness within families as well, of course,
I think
I
that has
think.
always been there, but is there a recognition of the fact that there could be loneliness within a family? I think when you're living alone, a lot of people
Yeah.
will recognize and accept that you could be lonely.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of women within the family setup also could feel.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's
Yeah. No, I don't think, yeah, that's not really discussed as that, because it's almost considered like a slur on the family or on their
yes,
position. So
yeah,
there's this whole, it's sort of not hidden, but it's not acknowledged. Yeah, it's
yeah.
not acknowledged. So, yeah.
And
But
that
that's why female friendships are so important,
yes,
aren't they?
yes, because if you're
Yeah.
alone, it could wreak havoc on you. But if you have someone with whom
Mhm.
you talk and share, vent it out,
That's right.
it's definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Reshma, looking around
Mhm.
us, I mean, when I look around me, I see there are so many
Mhm.
people, and it's not only women, men as well, who are taking to doing different and diverse things once they hit their, midlives, which I like to call
Yeah.
midlife rebooting. So they're taking
Yeah.
on diverse and like diametrically opposite things. So if somebody was a doctor all their lives, or suddenly they want to start writing, or they want
Mhm.
to go
Yeah.
hiking,
Yeah.
or swimming, or designing. It could be anything. So, but it largely has to do with creativity. So, what do
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
to say about this? I mean, do you think this is a good trend that's picking up, or I mean, what do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think it's wonderful, especially this new emphasis on fitness and health, and, rebooting your, whether taking up yoga or going on, this intermittent fasting or green juicing. I think anything that enhances your life and improves your well-being is something good. And, just like a cat has 9 lives, why should we be defined by one job or one particular
Absolutely.
personality?
Yeah.
You know, yeah, one can always reinvent oneself at any age, and especially in middle, in our sort of the middle period.
Yeah.
Luckily, the children have sort of grown up; they don't need us as much, and suddenly you've got all this free time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not use that productively to learn to rediscover a new aspect of yourself?
I agree.
That was not
And
there. So,
as they say, constant growth and evolution. That is
yes,
essential,
absolutely,
right?
yeah, yeah, constant growth and evolution, yeah.
So just because you've reached a certain age doesn't mean that you can't do it.
No, no, no. And we are living longer, touch wood, So,
Yeah.
if one is reasonably healthy, well, you can still look forward to another 20, 30 years of productive life. So
Absolutely.
why sort of hang up the, gloves and
Yeah.
say, okay, this is it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So finally, Reshma, if looking ahead, uh, what do you think are, I mean, if you can identify your goals or aspirations going forward, both personally and professionally, what are the things that you're looking forward to?
Um, Yeah, like we said, we should always have goals. We should revisit our goals every year. So
Absolutely.
professionally, of course, to continue writing, I've just started my next novel. So
Okay.
it would really be, to continue to keep writing and producing books and meeting my readers, all over the world. I go attend lots of events, literary festivals, book signings. So in a way, to continue the dialogue with my readers and to discuss and to become a better writer, to keep improving always, we are always works in progress as humans.
Yeah.
And on a personal level, of course, to remain, to be healthy, maybe, not to maybe snack too much or, do more exercise.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So quick one.
and to
Yeah.
continue being, to continue being needed in my children's lives, as they grow up and they set up their own homes eventually, to remain relevant to
Yeah.
them,
That is
Yeah.
actually, I think, very important, because if you are relevant, more than how relevant you are to them, I think it gives you a sense of purpose and
Sure.
something to look forward to. Because otherwise, you just may feel that, what do I do? Of course, you've got
Yeah,
your writing, but then also to be important and relevant in your loved ones' lives. I think that is
of
very, very
course.
important.
Yeah, that's really relevant because you've given up so much of your own emotional and physical life to them,
Yes,
So you don't want that suddenly, you don't want that umbilical cord to suddenly snap and then that's it,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So fine, Reshma, we move on to the rapid fire. So this is
sure,
a set of quick 5 questions, 5 quick answers. And so should we start?
sure.
We'll start with a simple one. What is your favorite genre to read?
Genre to read. I love, I think books that deal with families,
Yeah?
and
Okay.
yeah, and this whole sort of thing, sense of being displaced and leading a translated life, and
Okay.
in that sort of, in between worlds, I think things that I can relate to. So one of my favorite authors is Jhumpa Lahiri. I
Oh,
think
yes,
she
of course. In
touches it
fact, I was
so
going to
well.
ask you, you were in Rome. So, yes,
Yeah,
that's where
of
she's
course,
now.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. And
Yeah.
my PhD was on her work, so
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's
So,
interesting.
yes,
Okay. All right.
yes.
Okay. So we were talking about snacking. So what's your favorite writing snack or beverage?
Oh gosh. Beverage would be tea. I'm a real
Yeah.
tea drinker. I think I have to have several cups through the day.
Okay.
And snack, I'm more a savory person, I think,
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, anything savory, crisps. Oh, luckily I don't keep many Indian snacks at home. Otherwise, I think I'd be gorging myself on mattis and
Yeah.
samosas.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
so yeah, maybe, yeah, savory.
Okay. So one book you wish you had written.
Oh, one book. I think it would have to be, I think Rohinton Mysteries, A Fine Balance.
Yeah.
I think for me, yeah, that's an amazing book. I mean, I read it a few years back, but I think I have to, every few days I still think about it. It's such a multi-layered
Mm-hmm.
book, and the whole sort of the tragedy and the comedy of life, it's all there. It's an epic book in all senses. Yeah.
Okay. The next one. If you could meet any fictional character, who would it be?
Fictional character, wow. If I could meet, I think it would have to be, uh, yeah, maybe Dick Driver from F. Scott Fitzgerald's
All right.
book Tender is the Night,
Okay.
or Mr. Gatsby from The Great
Okay.
Gatsby. I
All
think
right.
I'd love to crash one of his parties.
Oh, yes. I know.
Yeah.
And just experience
Yeah.
firsthand what's been written about.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
finally, what is your favorite writing spot?
My favorite writing spot is actually my desk, which overlooks the garden.
Oh,
So, and
yeah.
there's a big statue of a Buddha statue, which is just to
Okay.
the left of where I sit. So yeah, so just looking at the trees and the sky and even the rain, because I live in Manchester, so rain is a constant companion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it has its upsides because everything is remains very green and lush for a long time.
Yeah. It's true.
So my favorite spot is really my desk, yeah,
Okay.
which is the corner, yeah, on the ground floor.
Okay. So thank you,
Yeah.
Reshma. It was
Oh,
indeed
thank you so
wonderful
much.
having this conversation with you, delightful, insightful, and getting to know another woman is always something that I look forward to, and then I cherish the experience of the conversation. So it was indeed very, very nice having you on the show. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, Sangeeta. It was such a pleasure to share everything with you. Thank you.